Covering the Bakongo-Teke region is a region characterized as having very arid highlands and plateaus in the famous Queen Njinga, a region best described as the Ovimbundu Ambundu country. Most of this region encompasses what we now know as Luanda, the capital of Angola, areas reaching the interior of the Kwanza River, stretching all the way down to the port city of Ngola and its surrounding areas. And as stated earlier, most of these people are what we call today Ambundu or Ovimbundu, two peoples who were somewhat related linguistically, but had differing cultures. For example, the Ambundu, whose ancestors began to arrive through Bantu migrations during the Middle Ages, were characterized as being more matrilineally oriented, some Ambundu states even having queens. Meanwhile, the Ovimbundu, who also migrated to the area around the same time frame, had more of a bilateral descent system, where land ownership and kingship was mostly male-dominated, and movable objects were matrilineally inherited. Despite their differences, though, they shared the same qualities that many other Atlantic African societies and peoples shared as well, sharing characteristics like having powerful healers, strong relationships with the ancestors, as well as having agrarian-based societies and kingdoms where women did most of the farming and selling of produce. Around the 1300s, during Congo expansion, the Congo Kingdom was able to take control of many of these Ambundu states and polities, with the Ovimbundu being relatively untouched. A situation the Portuguese were made aware of when they first arrived at the Congo River around 1483, and became heavily invested in when the King of Congo finally gave in to Portuguese wishes to settle Luanda. Portuguese quickly formed relationships with the Ambundu there, namely Ndongo, and as Congo-Portuguese relationships started to sour, Ambundu quickly saw this as a way to break free of vassal status, of which they did for some time through Portuguese assistance. Unfortunately, however, this alliance quickly broke down and Ndongo and the Portuguese suddenly were at war constantly during the 1600s, much like their Congo neighbors to the north. The primary motivating factor being that the Portuguese wanted to establish a colony so they could extract silver from mines presumed to be there. Aided by the Ngola and sometimes other Ambundu polities who played musical chairs between them and Ndongo, they were able to sack Ndongo and have Nzinga move all the way into the interior towards Matamba, another Ambundu policy. She fought on until 1650 when her and the Portuguese came to terms. The terms being that she would be able to have a huge slave market in her kingdom, and the Portuguese would be able to take control of lands near the Lucala River. Still, the incessant fighting had spurred what we now know as an Angolan wave to the Americas. It created a rare situation where Europeans had some type of colonial sway over Atlantic Africans. Many of the Ambundu polities who got Portuguese support to free themselves from Congo, and those who were outright conquered, having to supply or meet Portuguese quotas for enslaved people, especially when they found out that silver mines were nowhere to be found in Ambundu lands as once thought, dividing already established centralized and decentralized Ambundu societies into sabados, meaning the vast majority of those landing in the New World, which was dominated by Spain and Portugal from 1590 to 1640. Were Ambundu and Congo forced migrants who assisted in building cities in countries like Colombia, Mexico, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, colonial Spanish Jamaica, Argentina, Brazil, and elsewhere. After around 1650, this Angolan wave to the Spanish Americas ended, and new circumstances began to take hold here and elsewhere. For starters, other European powers were starting to see the value in doing business near the Congo area the Portuguese initially had a full hold of. And there was also the end of the Spanish-Portuguese Union, prompting Occidental rights to go to the British, French, and Dutch. This forced the Portuguese to focus more on their colonial holdings in Brazil and explore south of Luanda for copper mines, ultimately leading to the founding of Benguela, and the beginning of a direct relationship with the Ovimbundu in the interior, where they encountered multiple centralized and decentralized states but no copper mines. Despite that fact, they were able to impose some type of vassal status on these people, thus starting a situation where Ambundu and Ovimbundu peoples fought and raided each other in order to meet their quotas and get goods that were supplied by Brazilian and Portuguese merchants. Those unfortunate enough to be forcibly migrated from Ambundu and Ovimbundu lands, landing in cities such as Recife, states of Para, Maranhão, Bahia, and parts of southeastern Brazil, where they contributed things like capoeira, religions like Kimbanda, and dances like samba. Contributions which cost Ngola some of his best minds and future creativity. If you following like from months ago,